patriots, gaytriots, and natriots, fasten your seatbelt because IHIP News is starting now with the news roundup. Sound the sirens and get ready because JD Vance is dropping more drag photos on the World Wide Web. Here he is, the pro-family, anti-gay, anti-drag, drag queen who happens to be the candidate for vice president of the United States.
You know, it's interesting. I hear nothing but vitriol from this man. I mean, vile, hateful attacks. And here he is in drag, which, again, I want to state for the gaytriots, patriots, and natriots, we're all over it. We love drag.
I will fight for his right to wear drag and to pose like this because I'm not a religious hypocrite.
Right. And not trying to be on the moral high ground. It's just, you know, it's just perfect is what it is.
It's a chef's kiss.
It is.
These people are so bad at campaigning. It's really jaw-dropping. I would think that maybe there was like a covert operation that the Democrats have like an internal spy in their campaign. That's how bad it is. But I remember at the top of the ticket, Donovan Lecter, and as we all know, it is trickle-down incompetence with these people, as evidenced by the next interesting little tidbit that hit the news yesterday, which is Donald Trump, who retruths all of this QAnon garbage all the time, where we go one, we go all. He's been renting Jeffrey Epstein's PJ, and he's even put Trump on it to fly around the United States.
It's so unbelievably incompetent. I mean, that's just the only word for it. When I heard this, it reminded me of a couple things. Number one, wasn't Trump on Epstein's flight logs multiple times?
Yes.
And didn't, when Ghislaine Maxwell got arrested, he said, oh, she's a nice person.
He wishes her well.
He wishes her well. Now, this is after he calls Hillary Clinton nasty, Kamala Harris nasty, but he's all chips in on Ghislaine Maxwell. And then is he so cheap that he buys or that he rents a pedophile's plane, or is he just that incompetent? Like, these are the questions rattling around in my head.
I think these are the same people that played the Titanic song at their campaign rally in Montana. I mean, these are the same people that get outraged about the drag queens at the opening of the Olympics, yet they Photoshop all these homoerotic pictures of Jesus and Trump hugging each other. And, you know, like Trump was sent here by Jesus. I mean, these people are literally insane, and it is a cancer that is piercing through this country. But I want to point out, before we get off of this private plane situation, I want to point out that a lot of people that are moderates but lean Trump, flirt with Trumpism, will say, well, both sides are crazy. Right. And here's an example of why both sides are not crazy. Because if the left were as crazy as the right now there would be all of these conspiracy theories about the airplane. Like, if you remember all the QAnoners, that ended up with a man going to Comet Pizza in D.C. for Pizzagate to try to break into a basement that didn't exist.
Right.
To kill child traffickers. This guy's the most prolific child sex trafficker that we know of, Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes.
There's tons of pictures with him and Donald Trump. Donald Trump was buddies with him, and now he's renting his airplane. And they just are able to do this moral and mental gymnastics around all of this and still vote for this guy and Photoshop him in photographs with Jesus Christ.
With the 12-pack abs.
All right. And then moving along, you know, there was this big push by the two trust fund babies, Elon Musk and Donald Trump. I'm going to show our viewer an image of these two alpha males, and listener, here they are looking like they are in an action movie with their sunglasses on and their trench coats. Anyway, so these two guys, who both, I would say, are not rock solid mentally, do this big launch of X. So I was bored and I tried to get in to the X. And Elon Musk is like, we're being attacked. It's a DDoS or whatever. I'm not techie, but there's an attack. So there's like this 2-hour delay, and we could call this a soft launch. Freudian overtures intended there. Anyway, the soft launch, they start going on and on and on, and they're rambling nonsensically, but they start talking a lot about immigration. And Elon Musk, there is video of him saying that he used to be an illegal immigrant. Anybody can Google that and see that.
Right.
But what is so amazing to me is that they're sitting there talking about how there's 2 types of immigrants. There's the immigrants that are, according to Donald Trump, released from insane asylums into the United States because, listener, he confuses the act of asylum with an insane asylum. People seeking asylum, he thinks that means they came from an insane asylum, like fictional character Hannibal Lecter. That's why he does that all the time. And he's running for president of the United States, and I just still can't even believe I have to say that. And then they went on and on to talk about unproductive immigrants or lazy immigrants. And I'm sitting here thinking, these 2 silver spoon trust fund babies that have never done a day of manual labor in their lives are going on and on. And the reason it's getting traction is because the immigrants that they're talking about have melanin in their skin.
That's right.
And so it is a race-baiting, xenophobic way to get the white supremacist, Christian nationalist base of MAGA to take this red meat and chew it up. And what's so sick about these people is they say they're big followers of Christ, yet they feast upon being cruel to minorities.
It's really disheartening. I remember when Trump was in the White House, or maybe he was running for the White House, he said, immigration's fine if you're from a Scandinavian country, which is code for if you're white. But it's so despicable the way that they go after these people seeking asylum, convicted felons. Okay, Donald Trump, you can't talk about convicted felons because you are one. Convicted sex offenders, you have been found liable for sexual abuse. And Elon Musk, I can't wrap my head around somebody that makes electric vehicles would go to the right when his customer base leans left. Because didn't Mr. Trump say that he just didn't believe in climate change? We didn't even need to talk about it.
Right. But now he's saying in his rallies, Elon supported me, so now I'm all chips in on electric vehicles. Basically saying I can be bought and paid for.
Right.
I'm the most transactional person on the planet. But also you have to remember at the core, all of these maniacs that go to these Trump rallies and these people that vote for Trump, they are all about, we're all about family values.
Right.
Elon Musk is no different than the Duggar family. He's got 12 kids. He is fighting with one of his trans kids on X all the time. I think she actually posts on Threads. He is a terrible deadbeat dad, does not take care of his kids. This is not some family man with family values, and he supports this criminal. This is so gross that the United States right now, we're in a phase where we're trying to redeem ourselves because of Trumpism. And you have people that are actually academic and intellectual and are fighting for all Americans. And then you have these 2 bozos get on a 2-hour late live stream and talk about this jet stream of bullshit. Both of them are pieces of shit dads.
Yes.
Both of them. Both of them are piece of shit human beings. And they're trying to lecture people who are seeking asylum that it is so bad that you are strapping a toddler on your back to just try to go make money so that you can feed your kid. And they have no sense of humanity, charity, generosity, or justice for these people. It is so gross. But here's the funny part about this 2 hours of bullshit. I want to first play the clip, and you'll notice Trump is kind of slurring. I think medical doctors call this, I think it's when you have dementia, it's like sundown syndrome, where you start to get really confused in the afternoons. And so here he is talking about the Kamala Harris on the cover of Time magazine.
And actually, she looked very much like our great first lady, Melania. She didn't look she didn't look like Camilla. That's right. But of course, she's a beautiful woman. So we'll leave it at that, right?
Okay, so he starts with Kamala, says she looks like his wife, Melania. And then he says she doesn't look like Camilla, who is King Charles' wife in Great Britain. And so this is clearly a man who doesn't have, everything going on upstairs. He's old. He's 78 years old. Elon Musk even tweeted when he was supporting Ron DeSantis, whom we call kitten heels because he wears the elevated boot to make himself taller. He even tweeted like last year that Donald Trump is 78. If he were to win, he would be 82 years old at the end of his term. This is too old for anybody to be president. And so here he is, these flip-floppers.
Oh, yeah. And then they start going on about how Kamala Harris is a flip-flopper, which I'm like, you don't get to say that. But it sounded to me like he had peanut butter in his mouth, like he was trying to talk through peanut butter. Did you get that vibe?
I don't know. There was some rumors on Twitter that maybe, he's old, that maybe he had taken his dentures out because it was later in the evening. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. I mean, I've heard a lot of stuff on Twitter. I've heard that he snorts Adderall.
Right.
So maybe he had run out for the day or already had his allotment. I've heard he wears diapers and shits his pants. I've heard he wears dentures. I don't know if this stuff is true or not. I'm just saying this is what has been leaking out of people that have been around him that then gets on the World Wide Web.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was like, and then I saw that picture of him where he had the big shoulder pads in his suit. Did you see that? It was on Twitter, like when he was slumped over doing this interview. I mean, he just looks awful. He looks unhinged.
When he was slumped over doing this interview, I saw a clip that over his left shoulder, there was a portrait, an oil portrait of him in his little golf outfit with his leg up, and he was kind of like leaning his arm down, and it was over his shoulder. And it's just amazing to me. Like, he loves to like promote himself in this grandiose fake way. And his supporters, they love to do it too. And it's such a sickness in this country. How many people see that man and make so many moral carve-outs and excuses for him because he satisfies some part in their brain when he serves up that red meat where they get to be mean to women, to marginalized groups, to immigrants, to gay people, to trans people. I mean, could you imagine what it's like being J.D. Vance with these drag photos dropping left and right in that MAGA atmosphere? Can you imagine how much he's getting bullied right now?
I was thinking about that yesterday, that Donald Trump is going off on him. They are all going off on him. Like, he is probably getting it the worst of everyone.
And you would think that maybe he would then have an epiphany.
Right.
J.D. Vance, who the internet named his drag name Sofa Loren. But you would think that Sofa Loren would then have an epiphany where she would say, you know what, I was wrong to saddle up with this crew because they are being really cruel, that I was a drag queen when I was a student at Yale Law School, and they bully drag queens, and I don't like that. And so I need to get off of this ticket. They bully my wife because she has melanin in her skin. They seem to not understand mixed races. My kids are mixed race, but he doesn't have a backbone.
No.
These people are all transactional, all bought and paid for. It's the grossest. But here's what's so dangerous about Donald Trump. He claims that he wants to be president of the United States. And I want to remind the listener that the president of the United States gets the nuke codes, the nuclear codes he has. He thinks he's this badass negotiator. He thinks he's so tough with all of these authoritarian leaders around the world. I want to play to you, he recalls a conversation he had with Vladimir Putin. And so here's what he says.
And again, I said to Vladimir Putin, I said, don't do it. You can't do it, Vladimir. You do it, it's going to be a bad day. You cannot do it. And I told him things that what I do. And he said, no way. And I said, way.
This is a guy who is telling us and showing us his foreign policy acumen.
Yes.
And he said, way.
Is that not the biggest bro conversation you've ever heard in your life? I mean, seriously, that's how you're negotiating foreign policy with a cruel dictator?
Imagine if Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden said that. Fox News would hyperventilate so bad they wouldn't even be able to see straight because they're the alpha male. We're the alpha male network. We are fighting for men. Men are under attack, blah, blah. That is the biggest, scariest bullshit I've ever heard because these are serious things.
That's right.
Russia and the military force that they have is incredibly serious. All the nukes and all the weapons that the United States of America has, that is not child's play. You cannot put this lunatic in charge of all of that stuff. It's just utterly insane.
It's utterly insane. And I can't imagine if you listened to that jet stream of bullshit that you wouldn't walk away thinking, oh my gosh, this is unacceptable. But then again, I go through my head, like the jump off point, it happened so many years ago. And it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And people still don't jump off. I just don't understand it.
They just keep moving the goalposts and moving the goalposts. And people make excuses for him that they would never make for anybody else. And this is cancer in this country. And the only way to combat this cancer is to vote blue up and down the ballot. So viewer and listener, I want to thank you for joining us. Please go over to the podcast app and subscribe because not only is this a YouTube channel, we've also launched it as a Monday through Friday up until the election, daily news caps. We watch the news so you don't have to and put a spin on it that makes it a little bit more palatable. Subscribe to this channel. Please rate on the podcast app and we will see you tomorrow.
It's so